Morning all. Alright, so preview and news video squashed into one here. We got two games tonight in the NHL, so when it's two or less, it doesn't get its own video. It's 7 o'clock Eastern, 4 o'clock Pacific start time between the Philadelphia Flyers and the Toronto Maple Leafs. Philadelphia is 5-2-2 on the season. Toronto is 4-4-2. This is the first of three meetings. They'll meet again on December 22nd as well as January 8th. On the Philadelphia side, Farabee, 2 goals, 3 assists. A little bit slower start than I think he'd want. But he's been prominent, so I would expect his scoring to pick up. Their power play at 19.4%, a little less than they'd want. Their penalty kill's pretty good, 82.8% overall. On the Toronto side, they're 4-4-2, and I'm well aware of the situation with Toronto. Marner, 2 goals, 7 assists, 9 points, has been in the news a lot since that game against Anaheim. But I'm banking on them being able to bounce back. Their power play is now at 24.3%. They can pick that up. And that is a good number, but I think they can go higher. Penalty kill, 75.7%. That one needs to go higher. So it'll be interesting to see how this one turns out. Is it another low-scoring game involving the Flyers, or does it become one of those crazy 8, 9, 10-goal games involving the Leafs, meaning 5-3, 6-3, 6-4, that kind of thing. 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 Pacific start time between Pittsburgh and Buffalo. So the Pittsburgh Penguins at 4-4-2 meeting Buffalo for the first time in 3 meetings. They'll meet again on December 9th and December 10th. And so for Pittsburgh, Malkin, 5 goals, 5 assists. He's clicking at a point per game. Good start for him. There are other players who've got to pick things up. Their power play, it's a little below average at 20.5%. Their penalty kill definitely below average at 70.6%. So that definitely needs to go up. On the Buffalo side, they are 6-3 on the season. Tage Thompson, 8 goals, 8 assists, 16 points. And of course, 6 of those points were scored on Halloween. So he'll be looking to keep that hot streak going. Their power play, 23.5%. Their penalty kill, 79.3%. And this one should be a fun one. So let me know who you think will win these games in the comment section below. So there you go. That is it for the preview portion of our program. Now, getting into the news, thus far, the Department of Player Safety, a lot more quiet than I thought they would be. Cizikas has been fined for the goalie interference on Stalock, which injured Stalock. And so that's that. It's $5,000. It's not a lot of money. And again, it's the maximum allowable, yada, yada, yada. And so, yeah, Cizikas gets fined. Nothing else on anything else thus far, so there you go. The Ottawa Senators, this hit the news yesterday. Now, of course, it was 12-game night, so I wasn't able to do a video on this last night. The Ottawa Senators are up for sale, or going up for sale, I should say. His family, Eugene Melnick's family, inheriting it, deciding what to do, doing the due diligence, have decided to sell the team. Now, the team is valued at $655 million, but as Bruce Garriock said last night, and I'll agree with him on this, it's going to go higher, and I've seen other reports from others as well saying at least $800 million is what this team's going to sell for. Now, the big key to this is the LeBreton Flats project, which is still out there, and there's going to be deadlines related to that. That as much as the NHL and all entities involved with the Senators have given his family time to figure things out, and his being Eugene Melnick's family time to figure things out since his passing. There is still, there's a clock ticking on that arena deal, and they still get preference. So a new owner could come in and take over and finish that deal. There are rumored names, and again, Bruce Garriock gave off just 3 off the top of his head last night. There are numerous ways this could go. I do not anticipate there being any problem in terms of being able to keep this team in the city. However, if the LeBreton Flats deal were to fall through again, that could be problematic. So you need somebody in place that can close that deal and make sure that the team stays in the Ottawa market, because otherwise, it really could be up in the air about whether or not they might stay in Ottawa. If it is decided it's not feasible to stay in Canada, where they are currently, which is not Ottawa. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with the Sens. I'm not panicked, as somebody who's followed the Sens for a very long time. I think this will get figured out, and I think they'll stay in Ottawa. So, yeah, We'll just see who ends up emerging with the billions of dollars needed in order to purchase a team for $800 million. Again, it could end up being around $1 billion. Other Ottawa Senators news as well is that the standoff with Alex Formenton continues. He's the only restricted free agent out there. That's it. So, I mean, technically a team could, I guess, give him an offer sheet, but I don't think there's a deadline on that until December 1st. But anyways, it sounds like for Formenton and the Sens, they're just kind of not feeling any urgency for the situation, which kind of surprises me in the light of Norris's injury, because if Josh Norris is going to be out potentially for the rest of the season, if they brought in Formenton from his standoff with the team, it would go a long way to replacing at least some of that offense that gets lost there. So we'll see how it turns out. Now, former Ottawa Senator Erik Karlsson seems to be back offensively. And I say offensively because it's all offense. He really is playing like a rover out there for the San Jose Sharks, which is great. You know, he gets his first career hat trick last night. He's getting a ton of points for them right now. And it's nice to see him enjoying himself again. So while the San Jose Sharks have not had a great start to the season, Karlsson has. And Erik Karlsson definitely seems to be back to being what he was many years ago. He may never have the skating speed back he once had, but in general, he's playing quite well. So kudos to him on sticking with it and seemingly being in the midst of a resurgence offensively. Logan Stanley has been placed on IR by the Winnipeg Jets, so on an emergency basis, they get to recall Jansen Harkins. Logan Stanley on IR means it's not going to be that long in all likelihood. They haven't said how long, but if it's just an emergency recall, it shouldn't be that long. It's probably day-to-day with Stanley. So we'll see what happens there. And so, yeah, speaking of injuries, though, and one thing that's been talked about, and so I wanted to talk about in video, it's an article, I think it's on TSN today, about how we don't get injury details and that the NHL is behind other leagues in that category. Now remember, the league partners up with a lot of gambling sites now, like a lot of various gambling websites and apps and entities. And what gambling websites want is clarity on how long a player is going to be out. Well, what's wrong with them, right? And so when these deals started getting made, there was an expectation that we could see the NHL having to disclose how long everybody's going to be out. I thought it was entertaining, too, to see Max Domi saying, look, I don't think people should know how much money we make. And I can understand where he's coming from with that one, too, because it does cause breaks between fans and players when they know how much money that player makes, and then they don't think they're getting the return on that investment. But yeah, the vague injury disclosures will go away at some point. Players aren't going to be happy about it. The funny thing is they used to tell us. So again, me being old, I can remember when they would say, oh yeah, he's got a broken leg, he's got a separated shoulder, concussion. They would tell us all this. And it started becoming more vague. The theory being at the time that if I tell you, yeah, he's got a separated right shoulder, well, in his first game back, teams are going to be testing that shoulder with crunching hits and things of that nature every time they get a chance. The league doesn't seem to have that same feeling that it had back then, but I wouldn't rule out certain players maybe thinking that it'd be a good idea to go back to that kind of thing. So I think that's where the vagueness of the injury disclosure started, and now it's just a part of our day-to-day where I say, this guy lower body, upper body. We know upper body's probably shoulder. If it's not a concussion, it's probably shoulder. It could be an elbow, could be hand, right? But there are general areas where, and the interesting part to me too is usually if it's an injury and we can see when it happens, we can tell what it is. Especially if it's a shoulder. You can usually tell by the way a guy leaves the ice if he's favoring that shoulder. And so, again, I understand the vagueness. I get it. As irritating as I found it when I started doing the news videos years back, because I was like, well, this doesn't tell us anything. But that's kind of by design. And again, we'll see if the NHL says, no, we've got to tell them 100% truth when it comes to these injuries, if we start to see those tactics where a guy comes back, he's got a bad knee, and maybe you start seeing him get slashes across that same knee. Because again, Hockey can be a brutal sport that way. But let me know your thoughts in the comments section below, as always. And, of course, your winners for these games. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.